It all started on a Tuesday, one of those perfectly boring sun-drenched California Tuesdays where the sky is so blue it almost hurts to look at. I was home alone, watering the spider plant that hung by the kitchen window. As I leaned over the sink, my reflection in the glass caught my eye. But it wasn't the kitchen I saw behind me, it was a hallway. A long, narrow hallway I'd never seen before, lined with closed doors and lit by a single, flickering bulb. I spun around. Just my familiar, sunny kitchen. I turned back to the window. The strange hallway was still there, a silent, grainy movie playing just for me. My heart started thumping like a drum solo. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a weird reflection from a neighbor's house. I finished watering my plant and decided to forget about it. But you can't just forget something like that, can you? Curiosity is a relentless little gremlin. I moved to the living room window, the big bay window that overlooked the street. I peeked at my reflection, expecting to see my couch and coffee table. Instead, I saw a dusty attic. Cobwebs hung like funeral veils from wooden beams, and old furniture was draped in white sheets, looking like a gathering of ghosts. My house doesn't have an attic. I live in a one-story ranch-style home. My hands started to feel cold, and a shiver traced its way down my spine. Despite the California heat pressing in from outside, I was officially freaked out. This wasn't a trick of the light. This was something else, something impossible. I went from window to window, my dread growing with each one. It was like my house was a Rubik's Cube, and every window showed a different scrambled face of it. The dining room window showed a dark, damp-looking basement with a single wooden chair in the center. The guest bathroom window, a tiny frosted pane, reflected a child's nursery, complete with a rocking horse that was gently, creakily, moving back and forth on its own. We don't have kids. I don't know anyone with a nursery like that. Each reflection was a room I didn't have, a piece of a house that wasn't mine, yet the window frames were undeniably part of my home. It felt like I was looking into different dimensions, all connected to my little suburban house. The fear was starting to turn into a full-blown panic. I had to know what was happening. Was I losing my mind? Was this some elaborate prank? I thought about calling someone, the police, a friend, anyone, but what would I even say? Hi, my windows are showing me a haunted house montage. They'd think I was crazy. So, I decided I had to be methodical. I started taking pictures with my phone, documenting each bizarre reflection. The hallway, the attic, the basement, the nursery. But on my phone screen, the reflections were just reflections. My phone showed the real rooms behind me, the kitchen, the living room, the dining room. The phantom rooms were only visible to the naked eye. It was just for me. That realization was somehow more terrifying than anything else. My journey through the house ended at my bedroom. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold myself steady. I stood before the large sliding glass door that led out to the small patio. I was almost too scared to look. I took a deep breath, squeezed my eyes shut for a second, and then opened them. The reflection was my bedroom. For a heart-stopping moment, I felt a wave of relief so intense it almost made me dizzy. It was normal. It was finally normal. But then I looked closer. Everything was the same: my unmade bed, the pile of books on my nightstand, the poster on the wall, except for one detail. Someone was in my bed, tucked under the covers, their back to me, a still, silent shape. It wasn't me. I was standing right there, staring into the glass. My breath hitched in my throat. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. My entire body was frozen in a state of pure, primal terror. Who was that? The figure didn't move. It was just lying there, as if in a deep sleep. Was this a glimpse into the future, a warning, or was something already in my house, hiding in plain sight, in a place I couldn't see but my windows could? I backed away slowly, my eyes locked on the reflection, on the stranger in my bed. I felt like prey being watched by a predator I couldn't comprehend. The sunlight outside seemed to mock the chilling darkness that had invaded my home. I had to get out. I didn't grab my keys, my wallet, nothing. I just turned and ran. I fumbled with the front door lock, my fingers clumsy with fear, and burst out into the blinding afternoon sun. I ran down my driveway and didn't stop until I was halfway down the block, panting, my heart feeling like it was going to explode out of my chest. I stood there on the sidewalk, looking back at my house. It looked so normal. A cheerful little yellow house with a perfectly manicured lawn. You would never know, looking at it, the impossible horror it contained within its glass eyes. You'd never know that every window was a portal to a nightmare. I stayed with a friend that night, making up a story about a plumbing emergency. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. How could I? The next day I called a paranormal investigator. I know, it sounds cliché, but who else do you call when your house is breaking the laws of physics? A woman named Alani came over. She was calm, professional, and didn't laugh when I told her my story. She walked through the house with various gadgets, her face a mask of concentration. To my dismay, the windows were back to normal. Every reflection was exactly as it should be. The kitchen reflected the kitchen, the living room reflected the living room. It was as if the whole thing had been a waking nightmare. Elaine's equipment registered some unusual electromagnetic fields, especially around the bedroom, but she couldn't find any concrete explanation. She said sometimes houses, especially on land with a lot of history, can hold onto echoes, residual energy from other times, other places. She suggested a cleansing ritual, but she also gently suggested I might have been overtired or stressed. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I paid her for her time and tried to convince myself it was all in my head. But I couldn't forget the image of that person in my bed. I haven't been able to sleep in my bedroom since. I sleep on the couch in the living room now, with all the curtains drawn tight. I avoid looking into any reflective surface after dark. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I think I see a flicker in the glass, a flash of a dusty attic, a glimpse of a dark hallway. I don't know if the house is haunted, or if I am. All I know is that my home, my sanctuary, now feels like a prison of glass doors. And I'm terrified to see what, or who, might be looking back at me next. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever experienced anything like this, let me know in the comments. And make sure to subscribe for more strange tales. Stay safe out there.